What's up, people? My name is Shaggy, the opinionated hippie, currently ranking and reviewing all 26 of the tours Frank Zappa did during his lifetime. I started at number 26. I'm heading towards number 1. And after burning half of my bridges on number 19, where I put the 1988 last tour Frank ever did, I'm going to burn the rest of my bridges right now. And number 18 is Fall 1973, the Roxy and Elsewhere Band. Not the Elsewhere Band, the Roxy Band from the beloved Roxy and Elsewhere album. And the reason this is at number 18 is the exact same reason, my hair's all crazy sticking up, is the exact same reason 1988 was at number 19, and that is Frank's guitar playing. Again, not bad. It's Frank. He's a great guitar player. I don't care what year you're sitting in, but like 88, I think this is one of the weaker tours, one of the least interesting tours, one of the least exploratory tours. I'll go into that more in a couple minutes. But I do think for all of the greatness that this band has, the guitar playing is kind of a letdown, and kind of has a lot of facets of it that aren't my favorite. If you've watched more than like 4 of these videos, I probably mentioned in a third of these videos maybe that the 73, 74 era is my all-time favorite era. It probably will be no surprise as to what my number 1 tour is. But of the 6 tours that were played in 73 and 74, the Tom Fowler on bass, George Duke on keyboard era, because they were in every single band in this era. Ruth missed one of them. She missed the Elsewhere tour. But Ruth Underwood heavily influences sort of the sound of this band. And then Fowler and Duke even stuck around for the Bongo Fury tour, which is another phenomenal tour. But of the 6 tours that sort of happened in 73 and 74, this is the one that I think is the least interesting. It's the one I listen to the least often. There are 2 phenomenal releases that document this tour. When I ranked the 55 albums that have been released since Frank passed, Halloween 73, which is I think the 3rd, which documents the 3rd and 4th shows of this tour, maybe the 4th and 5th shows of this tour, I ranked that at number 13. And then the Roxy performances, which are the complete all Roxy performances, plus that extra night in which Jeff Simmons came and they did Dummy Up and other material, that came in at number 14. So there are 2 great releases from this band. But what really works about those releases is the sound is incredible. The band is incredible. The songs are uniformly incredible. Like, I don't think there's a single song on here that, like a Honey, Don't You Want a Man Like Me, or Keep It Greasy, or an Illinois Animal Bandit, or a Bamboozle by Love, or any of those things that I don't look forward to. There's nothing on here I don't look forward to. The Cosmic Debris are their best that they've ever been. The things that I normally might like not want to hear later on, they're fresh and energetic here. But the guitar's playing. The guitar playing was better for Frank in the spring summer tour. It was better on the late summer tour. It's much better in all of 74. It's really good in 75. But this is just the one tour where his guitar playing just isn't quite up to speed as the other 17 tours that I have yet to discuss. Who's in the band, you're asking? If you're not familiar with the Roxy and Elsewhere, or Roxy performances in Halloween 73. The band is Frank Zappa, George Duke on keyboards and vocals, Napoleon Murphy Brock on vocals, saxophone, and flute. He will henceforth be referred to as the saxophone player if I mention him. Tom Fowler on bass, Ruth Underwood on percussion, Bruce Fowler on trombone, and both Chester Thompson and Ralph Humphrey on drums. Essentially three percussionists. And George Duke is essentially a percussionist because piano's a percussion instrument. So you had a lot of percussion on this, plus one of the best horn players Frank has ever had in trombone. The saxophone player is still new to the band. In fact, this is the first time he would tour with the band, and so he's not quite as like everywhere as he would be by like 75 and 76, so that's a good thing. Ruth Underwood is amazing, and Tom Fowler has to be, I think he's genuinely well loved and respected, but he has to be the most underrated or underappreciated or under bragged about or under like, oh my God, this guy is ridiculous bass player that Frank has ever had, because oh my God, this guy is ridiculous. But yeah, they played late October through December. Not a lot of different songs played throughout the tour. It was almost the same set list over and over again, with maybe encores being different and maybe one random song thrown in every couple shows. But again, all the songs are great. I'll run through those. I'll give a sample set list later on, talk about that. Some of the songs Frank guitar soloed in, like there's no Inca Roads. Inca Roads is played on this, but it still doesn't have the guitar solo. It starts off with that Cocktail Lounge version, and then that goes into the sort of written crazy part that would occur after the guitar solo, that part, which leads into like a solo section, but no guitar solo. And King Kong doesn't have a guitar solo. King Kong was played in the Son of Green Jeans, King Kong, Chunga's Revenge, or King Kong, Chunga's Revenge, Son of Green Jeans medley. I think that medley switched around at one point in the tour, and I can never remember which one goes first. Yeah, it started off Son of Green Jeans, King Kong, Chunga's Revenge, and then it went King Kong, Chunga's Revenge, Son of Green Jeans. So that moved. But Frank only solos in the Chunga's Revenge, does not solo in King Kong. New songs on tour, Babette, which you can hear on a later version of Babette on You Can't Do That on Stage Volume 1. It popped up once, sort of a random, some like a kind of cheesy 50s doo-wop kind of lounge singer type thing about a dog named Babette, or a fan of a dog who named Babette. I forgot exactly what Babette was about, but dogs are involved. And then Cheapness premieres on here, and the San Clemente Magnetic Deviation, aka Dickie's Such an Asshole, makes its debut on this tour. That's where I caused all my earthquakes in my youth, that San Clemente Magnetic Deviation, or at least the fault line. That was the San Andreas fault. I don't know what I'm talking about. But anyways, so sample show, Holly 173. Again, it's pretty much the same songs played at every show, just kind of put in different orders. Frank had modules of songs that he would play. He kind of just moved those modules around from show to show. So you generally had like this grouping of songs. You had Pygmy Twilight, Idiot Bastard Son, Cheapness were usually played. Pygmy Twilight had that sort of dummy up jam in the middle, just kind of this sort of like, just this sort of nobody's soloing, but everybody's just kind of jamming along, and the vocalist, saxophone player would improvise a bunch of like vocals, usually about like drug abuse and taking drugs. It evolved into like that whole dummy up routine, that you can hear on Roxy and elsewhere. You had this long assembly of items, the Eric Dolphy Memorial Barbecue, just pretty much the theme, no solos, Kung Fu, Penguin in Bondage, which had a slightly different arrangement early in the tour, and it kind of evolved, to Mercy Dween, the Dog Breath Variations, Uncle Meat, Redunzel, and then you had the Village of the Sun, Echidnas Are For You, Don't You Ever Wash That Thing. The Don't You Ever Wash That Thing had some pretty interesting jams at the end of it. That would kind of change. Frank would sometimes like drum solo out or solo out. There'd be conducted improvisations. There'd be that kind of had a little interesting like facets going on to it. And then there was the best thing Frank ever did these 2 years, the Montana into Dupree's Paradise, with the George Duke solo section between those two, tying those together, in which George would start playing stuff on the keys. Frank would conduct the band. It would go off in all these different directions. Usually after about 5 minutes, sometimes more, they would go into Dupree's Paradise, which is one of the greatest segues ever. That just like cascading keys and percussion, and then the dun 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 before they go into Dupree's Paradise. Just one of the most beautiful things ever. And then Dupree's Paradise would usually have a couple solos in it, culminating in a always interesting Frank guitar solo. I was considering this tour for number 19. I went back and listened to a couple shows. I went back and listened to the November 24th Toronto show from this tour. Pretty typical set list right there. And as I was listening to this, some good solos, I was thinking this is probably going to be number 19. Then I hit that Dupree's Paradise right there, and I was like, oh no, this is this is far better than any random thing I've ever heard on any 88 show. And so it jumped to number 18. But that is really the one point in any show where anything truly just sort of like musically like unexpected or magical or just like so like Frank's really going out of the way to take chances seems to really only happen in Dupree's Paradise on this tour. And I, for one, I've gone on record, I would love to hear every Black Napkin solo ever played. I would buy that box set. I would definitely, not only would I buy a box set, but I think everybody would enjoy a box set of every single Dupree's Paradise from 73 and 74. Start with the George Duke improv, that segue into the theme, and then whatever solos happen, because they're all good. And while earlier in the early 73, some of the other side musicians that would solo tended to kind of walk the same solo path on every solo, Frank's guitar solos in almost every Dupree's, and every Dupree's I've ever heard, have been worth returning to and are always engaging and interesting. So that for me is the thing that elevated this definitely to number 18, is the fact that it has a Dupree's Paradise. But the issue with Frank's guitar, other than the Dupree's, as I think I may have mentioned this in the reviews of those other two tours, other two albums, the Roxy and Halloween 73, is he is very, very, very much like in the pocket on these guitar solos. Like in my head, when I think about him playing guitar, like I tend to visualize like a water slide, you know, where he's going down a very predetermined path, and he might get up here crazy on the edge, or he, you know, might turn around and spin as he's heading down, but he's not gonna like go off and like fall 100 feet to his death and taking chances and be able to get back on and finish. Probably not the best analogy. Surfing might be a better analogy, that he's definitely riding a rhythmic wave that's going in a certain direction, but he's able to like maybe, you know, accelerate. He's maybe doing some walking on the board, you know, maybe he's like just being a little flashy and doing tricks, you know, maybe he's able to like do some moves, you know, maybe it's a huge wave and he's in the curl for a really long time. But he's still gonna head towards the beach and just eventually just, you know, peter out into the rest of the song. Peter out might not be the best analogy. They're good solos, but they're not risky. They're not too aggressive. They're very, again, it just, everybody's kind of moving in the same direction in almost all of them. And it just feels like over, if you listen to too many of them, there's not a lot of deviation he can make. So he doesn't, except for Dupree's Paradise. Also the sound, the tone he has on his guitar. Just listen to the probably the stage one or any of the solos on any of these releases. But stage one, go to the I'm the Slime, Big Swifty on there. That's another pairing that gets played a lot. I'm the Slime and a Big Swifty. Listen to that pairing and just listen to the sound of that guitar. And it's just that guitar sound to me it's a fine guitar sound, but it's a little thin, a little weak, a little anemic. But yeah, that's about it. Those are the songs that were played. The rest of the band doesn't get the chance to stretch out in solo as often as they probably should. I think Dupree's Paradise offers opportunities for soloing. Bebop Tango offers opportunity for soloing. I think there was one Farther Oblivion played, at least that I've seen. Maybe two Farther Oblivions played that I've seen on Setlist, but that was played only earlier in the tour. And then the beginning of Farther Oblivion, which was Gregory Peccary, and the end, which was Cucamonga, dropped off, and it just became Bebop Tango. There were solos for the other ones in there, but definitely they are sort of shorter solos. Also, the King Kong has solos in Son of Mr. Green Jeans. They're shorter solos than they were doing earlier in 73, when it just seemed like they got a little bit more of a chance to stretch out and be a little more expressive. And again, there were a couple of one-off songs that were played. I think I mentioned it, but it was Babette. Mud Shark, sadly, at least made one appearance. The Ugliest Part of Your Body, What's the Ugliest Part of Your Body, made an appearance. For the most part, you know, Halloween 73, Roxy performances. Those two releases, give really, really great snapshots of this band at the beginning, at the end. And other than sort of random Dupree's Paradise solos, and I'm going to say this, other than every Dupree's Paradise solo in between those run of shows, it's just kind of the same thing every night. A really phenomenal band playing incredible songs at a really high level with guitar solos that are really great, but have 17 tours which contain better guitar solos. Yes, for sure. So again, shows to recommend other than those two officially great sounding releases. I think the first show they ever played, I think this might be the first show. It's the Austin, Texas, the Armadillo World Headquarters. This is an excellent sounding tape. This I know is out there somewhere. This is from October 26th. Yeah, so it does have a Farther Oblivion on it, but I don't think they finish it out. I think the Bebop Tango ends it. That should say actually Gregory Peccary maybe into Bebop Tango, but it's Farther Oblivion, then the Bebop Tango sort of devolves into Dancing in Madness, and then they never close it out. And then again, that Toronto 1124 show is a really good show. Excellent sound quality on both of these. Other than that, yeah, that's what I recommend. My number 18 tour. I don't really have much more to say on that. There is so much. I mean, those two releases, I think, can kind of quench any thirst you have for this tour. But box set, 73 Dupree's. It rhymes, kind of. 73's, comma, apostrophe, with an apostrophe, not a comma. 73's Dupree's, like the ones belonging to 73. That's the title of it, and it rhymes. So that is a phenomenal idea for a box set. 73's Dupree's. All right, because they belong to... Do I have to explain that again? All right, that's it. Let me know why I'm wrong, why I've burned the rest of my bridges, or why you agree with me that this is... I don't want to say it's a flashy tour of like style over substance, because there's a lot of substance and the songs are friggin' ridiculously good. And it is one of the albums that, you know, a lot of people, it's your foot in the door to deeper, darker, crazier Zappa, that Roxy and Elsewhere album. But again, there are 17 other more magical, incredible tours. Being 18 doesn't say anything about this tour as much as it says a lot about the other 17 tours. Can we just spin it that way? That's the way we're going to spin it. Thanks, comment, subscribe, be safe, all that stuff. Talk to you later. Peace.